Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this afternoon show. I'm here in Ireland, Big Joe Shep from the Three Bod Rugby Group, starting our brand new series of shows effectively after a 5-month absence, and it's great to be back. This is the first of a series of specials we'll be doing over the next 12 months with former legends and legends of the game they will be. We'll introduce our guest tonight. You all know who it is, but first and foremost, we've got some supporters, as everybody knows. We support local businesses, local and globally, and we have got them doing the same thing. So thanking tonight, we have got coffeedog.ie, the home of Shep's Blend and the new one, I've forgotten the name of it, the Coffee Dog, the top dog it is, but you can get Shep's Blend there as well. And thanks to Johnny and the team of Coffee Dog based in Dublin, but delivering globally. From Wales, the South Wales Ulster Rugby Supporters Club. Go to iOS and go to Android and have a look at the South Wales Ulster Rugby Club app and see how things about building engagement in the community are. So we thank them. Back to Ireland now, Rugby Academy Ireland, run by former Springbok Dan Fonsale and international coach Johan Taylor up in County Kildare there, although it's Rugby Academy Ireland. It is an international academy for aspiring young players, and it is a great place to be. Up to Ulster now, one of our sponsors at Auto Door Solutions from our Nigel Quigley, who was the host and lead of our Ulster Rugby Roundup show. Nigel, thanks very much for supporting. And across to Australia, the National Sports and Physical Activity Convention, which is running from the 11th of November to the 9th of December. We thank them for all their support. Go and have a listen to some of the Globe's top sports people and people involved in sports management, and thank you to the National Sports and Physical Activity Convention in Australia. Okay, cool. Well, tonight's guest is one of the game's truly great players, as we all know, and I'm reading this because I took this clip from our good friends at ESPN, but I think it summed him up in a T, really. He's had the ability to polarize supporters, brash, arrogant, and brilliant always. He has been described variously as Campo bewitched defences and infuriated opponents the world over during a career that took in 101 international caps, and one time was the world record holder with 64 tries. I couldn't imagine that, 64 tries. He's been inducted into the World Rugby Hall of Fame amongst a global amount of other awards. He's going to chat to us about his new biography, which comes out on the 2nd of November, his forthcoming speaking tour to the UK during the Autumn Internationals and how you can get hold of him. There's a chance to win a signed copy of his new book, and he's going to give us some thoughts on where rugby is globally and what he would like to see. Ladies and gentlemen, you've had enough of me. Please welcome the man himself, the great David CAMPESE. Campo, how are you?
I'm well, mate. There you go, Joe.
Oh, absolutely. Want to brush me? Show that book off me. That's part of what we're about today. That's really, really good.
There we go.
Awesome. We'll come back out to how people can win a signed copy of that shortly.
It's got some nice photos in it, mate.
for a prop forward like the likes of me.
Exactly. Yes.
I have to tell everybody when I said to Campo, because everybody knows I listen to audio books, just tend to find it's easier. And he went, "We don't do that, mate. That's for forwards, but I'll see what our people can do."
I agree.
Very, very true. Dave, listen, thanks very much for coming on. It's always fab to see you. You've been a great supporter of the show. Mate, let's just a couple of minutes. Just take us back to where you come from and how you got into rugby in the first place.
Well, I come from a town called Queensland. It's 21,000 people, just outside Canberra, which is the ACT. Played rugby league most of my life from 8 to 16. Won a golf championship at 15. Played cricket second grade originally. Then when I was 16, I went over to watch a rugby fourth grade team called the Queensland Whites. I asked the coach after the game if I need a fullback, and off I went. So I was a skinny little guy, just trained a house down, just always loved training. And so my best year of rugby was probably fourth grade in 1979 because of all the older guys who have been there, done that. So we had, a lot of big forwards who were very old. And when the ball went over their head, they knew this skinny little fullback would bring the ball back to them. So they had a great year. We won the premiership, first time ever, I think, in fourth grade. And so that was the start of my rugby career.
What there have been so many highlights, like we've spoken about on a number of occasions, but what really for you stands out? You know, having just done your biography, we'll come on to that, but what were some of the really big highlights for you, and why, mate?
Look, I mean, it's difficult because there's so many good highlights. There's so much a joy that I just wanted to entertain people. I mean, it's one of those things where you just go out there and wherever my feet went, mate, I followed. And I think there's probably 82 against the New Zealand 21s. I think you had the Wetton brothers, you had Kieran Crowley at fullback, and I got the ball about 20 metres out, chipped over and scored at the Sydney Cricket Grounds. You look at about playing in New Zealand in 82. You're looking at coming over to the Grand Slam, 84. Probably they tried the Barbarians in 84 when I sort of running up and down with Rob Ackerman in front of me and scoring and passing to Michael Hawke to score on the post. World Cup 91. The British Lions as well. I mean, people might think I'm a bit of a weirdo, but I think that pass in the British Lions 89 was sort of instrumental in a lot of ways because it proved that I'm just like everyone else.
Sure.
And you've got to take the good with the bad. And even though I was down, look, I copped so much, and that's what the book's about as well. I mean, I copped so much. Not abuse, but so much from the journos and all the people in Australia about one mistake. But it's sort of I realised then, and that you've got to keep on working. And obviously, the World Cup '91 was a great success. A couple of good tries against the best team in the world, New Zealand, and then obviously just playing really my best rugby in Europe. I was very fortunate to play my best rugby there because there was no pressure, because they love different styles of play. I think they wanted to see players try things and things like that, where in Australia, they just, after a while, it's called the tall poppy syndrome out here. They want you to get to the top, and once you get there, all they want to do is kick you down again. So it was, and plus, I came from the wrong background of rugby. I came from the government school system, not the private school system. And the administrators didn't really get on with me. And that's what, again, with the book, it's about the stories of me playing as a player, but the barriers it was with the administrators. I was sponsored by BMW. They were sponsored by Ford. ASICS came along as boots. I was sponsored by Adidas. So I was always contradict to what their sponsors were. So, and at the time, yes, I was a bit arrogant. I was playing good rugby. And, it was really good to G up the Poms when we played and the Irish and all those guys. But it was really, rugby was an education for me. It was an education about the world, Coming from Queensland, not finishing school, had no idea about the world. And all of a sudden, here I am on the world stage. So, and I adapted. You had to adapt if you wanted to be there a long time. So I was very fortunate to have great guys around me, played with the Ellers, great coaches, Alan Jones, Bob Dwyer, and played for a great team in Sydney called Randwick. So there was a lot of aspects of that, but obviously also playing in Italy for 10 years, I learned a lot about the game. And, playing number 10 over there, coming back to a Wallaby, then I understood the game a lot better because now I was a finisher, but in Italy I was a creator. So now you're both. So that's when you can read the game. And that's what I found that, after all the coaching I do now is that a couple of things I've realised is that coaches can't teach you how to catch and pass or kick. You've got to do that as a player. It's your responsibility. But unfortunately, the coaches these days are very one-dimensional. They're very structured. And if it doesn't work, the players don't know what to do because at training, if it doesn't work, they stop, we'll do it again. You can't be perfect all the time. You've got to react to certain situations. And I think we played that era where you were allowed to make mistakes and, you could adapt quickly. And if it wasn't working, you could change tactics. But now you've got I'm sick of these runners that run on. All the coaches run on after 5 minutes talking to the players. They've just come out of the dressing room. They're getting paid. They get a lot of money. And you still got people on there running on it, telling them how to play the game. It's getting a bit out of control.
including coaches being water boys. It's just crazy. I just think it's aligned.
But that's the control they want. David Trick obviously was at Bath Rugby, and I met him in Hong Kong a couple of years ago, and he was saying that they won the Bath games. After the game, he saw one of the coaches, and the coach said that he tried to get on 109 messages onto the oval in 80 minutes. So who's playing the game of rugby?
Yeah, exactly. It's really
very sad.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about before about almost overcoaching the skill out of players and being, stopping them from being able to have that free flowing and thinking themselves. We'll come back onto the 91 Ireland game after, because I think that when I talked about your first try, about your mindset, I don't think you don't see as much of that now because of what you're saying, that coaches don't give the latitude to players to be able to play.
Yeah, look, I think it's like anything in life. Like, your show you're doing, the first time you did it, you weren't real sure. As a rugby player, it's the same. You're not really sure. I mean, I went to New Zealand. I had no idea what I was doing. Getting off the plane, they said, "What do you think about marking the great Stu Wilson?" I said, "Stu who?" I wasn't smart. I had no idea.
Sure.
So you learn in life. And I was 19 years old, coming from Queensland, and now I'm on the world playing against the mighty All Blacks. I thought, geez, this is. But the thing is, what helped me, I had no idea what I was doing, so that really helps. When you go to a rugby school, it's all about rugby. It's all about the history and all that. So what you find after a while, Joe, is that you want to try different things, but you need the people around you to believe in you. And that's why, as a finisher and a winger, I'm the last person to get the ball.
Yep.
And it just came to that point where I trained very hard. People didn't see the off the field how I prepared. They just see the final 80 minutes, and that's what you pay to see. People go and watch rugby because they want to see people try different things. But that was the era where you could do that. But now, unfortunately, you've got about 6 million cameras. You've got a man in the middle who thinks it's all about him, and he talks to the players like they're in school, and it's just very frustrating. It's very frustrating seeing some of the talents, and that's why I'm so happy that Cheslin Kolbe's playing, because he is what we need to show to the young kids, the small kids. You don't have to be 130 kilos to run over people. You can still be very small, be very skillful and smart, and also still play in the modern game of rugby.
Absolutely. Superb. Mate, listen, we've got a whole pile of people from across the globe watching. If you've got any questions for Campo, then please let us have them, and we will ask them. We're going to come on to one from the great Martin Buggy in just a second, but Gregor Galway up there good friend in Ulster. Good afternoon to everyone, and good evening to people across the globe. John Keys in the show, Rugby Football Club. John, how are you? Conor Broomfield, who runs the fantastic Four Provinces group. 63 more tries. You've got more than him. Yeah, mate, you're a forward as well, though, mate. So, but we only ever have to score one, Con. Remember, we can live out in that. Reggie Hercules, it's great to hear from you, mate. Adam Militip from TWS School, the special school for autism. We'll come back to you in shortly. Eleni over in Greece, heavily involved with the women's and the youth rugby in Greece. Campo, hope to see you. Great to see you on it again. We'll take this question now. Andrew King, Andy, I hope you are well. Campo, very quickly, what current players would you like to play alongside? You just mentioned Cheslin there, but anybody else?
Yeah, look, I would love to play with Mackenzie, the Barretts, Willie LaRue. I like those sort of flair players. I like the attitude to the way they're playing. Probably a bit. I think Quade Cooper would fit in there as well, because he's one of those players that are very different, and coaches can't control. The other one I really enjoyed was Danny Cipriani. I think he was a fantastic player.
Oh, yeah,
but unfortunately, because you can't control him, the coaches don't want to pick you because they're scared what you're going to do at the paddock. So that's what's wrong with the modern game. The coaches have got so much control, and they'll only put players on there that they can control.
Mm-hmm.
And Colby, there's so much young talent out there. And you got the Barrett brothers. It's just some of those players, you know, I would have loved to have played with Kieran Reid. I think he was absolutely amazing number 8. Unfortunately, there's not too many Northern Hemisphere players. Man, I'm really sorry about that. But, yeah, it's just the way that we want to play a different style down here.
Sure, yeah, no, absolutely understand that. Some great names there, mate. Thanks for that. David Toppin up there in Ulster, part of our Ulster Rugby Roundup team as well. Do you think that the evolution of the game could come back full circle to creative play we used to have, or will we retreat further into risk-adverse play? Great question.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem, I think, is the coaching. You know, I'm going to be a bit critical here of some of the coaches. Eddie Jones won. He won't pick anyone who's a flair player. He talks about running the ball and all that, but I've seen a photo, I think, the Six Nations this year against Scotland at, I think it was Twickenham, where England I think the scrum was just around the halfway line, or ruck. England had the whole back line. Scotland had 2 players, and Farrell kicks a ball away in the corner. I mean, I don't understand the concept of that, you know. I mean, but again, you know, Farrell was a league player. So, I mean, the instinct about kicking the ball away, I just don't understand. You know, if you watch, for example, the British Lions against South Africa, I mean, they must have been the worst 3 games of rugby I've ever seen in my life.
Dreadful.
They were both so scared of making a mistake. They just want the other team to kick it away, and hopefully they make a mistake and get a penalty. You know, it actually was not worth. I think that should just be null and void, that tournament, because really, if it wasn't for Colby's try, there wasn't much happening, and the referees were just blowing so frustrating to see.
I'd sort of fallen out of love with most things after the playoff, as you can imagine, so I hadn't been watching much really. So I got back in the UK from the off, and I watched half of one of the Lions games, and I thought, well, it's just me. Yeah, this just isn't flipping me at all. And then I watched the final one and realised it wasn't me. It was just dreadful.
But you know, the problem is that you know, luckily there was no crowd there. I mean, I would have asked for my money back. You know, really. I mean, all they kept on doing was kicking to see who the best kicker was. But the game of rugby is, you know, it's a spectacle. People. It's like going to the theatre. You go to the theatre, you want to watch a show, you know, and these people prepare for the show. So that's what you hope. As rugby players, you're an international rugby player. So why aren't you the best possible player you can be? Why can't players in the world kick right and left foot? What's wrong with them? You know, I coached a school up here a couple of weeks ago up in Brisbane. And there was a young guy there who's just signed for the Rebels. So we did some training afterwards. I said, you know, I always ask the kids after training, what's your name, what position, who's your favourite player? 95% of the kids in Australia have got no idea about rugby players. And I said to this guy, who's your favourite player? He said, Barrett. Okay, what does Barrett do that you don't do? He does this. Okay, can you kick left foot? Oh, no. I said, why not? Oh, I don't know. I said, mate, you're going to the next level. You know, don't you want to be the best possible player you can be? I just find it very sad that these guys have just because they're signed up, they think they've made it. And I'll go, mate, it's a different world up there. You know, it's a tough one.
Cool. We've got some more questions to come, but we need to move on. Mate, tell us, since your retirement, I know you've got the 15s and 7s Academy. You've been doing so much stuff with grassroots, speaking and motivational stuff, coaching at club levels. Run us through why those things are important to you, and of course Stan Sport. You've been picked up by Stan Sport as well now. What do you enjoy now? What fires you up out of all of those things since you've retired?
Yeah, look, I think the main thing, I think my wife asked me, why do you do it? I said, I actually care. You know, I mean, my background is rugby league, but I was very fortunate to be thrown into rugby union, and I just love the game. You know, I coached the Sharks in South Africa. I've got a lot of good mates there. Played in Italy, got a lot of good mates. You know, it's all my friends are around the world, and I just love the game. I had an experience, you know, where I didn't know where I was going to end up. I didn't go to a private school. I went to a government school. Never any pressure from my parents, and off I went. So I'm just trying to repay what I've learnt. You know, I've got a lot of knowledge, but unfortunately in Australia, they don't want knowledge. They don't want us anywhere near these players. So it's very sad that when you watch guys, we got a couple of guys in the Australian rugby team, the Wallabies, who can't catch and pass. How can you be in a national team when you can't catch and pass? You know, I mean, that's just, to me, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, that's, you know, we've got an opinion. They don't want people with opinions. They want you just to shut up and move on. But I just, you know, I've just coached around the place. I love coaching. You know, you're coaching from 6-year-olds up to 18, 19-year-olds. And it's just good to just pass a bit of knowledge on. That's what life's about, you know. As a winger, I can help the Australian back three like in a couple of minutes. It's not difficult. But they're all very insecure of us old guys because we've got some knowledge and we used to win. You know, winning's important. You know, yeah. So it's just, I want, you know, we got a sevens program, but you know, in schools no one plays sevens. It's an Olympic sport. Yeah. I just don't understand. You know, we've got rugby league. We're probably unique compared to a lot of other countries. We've got rugby league. We've got Aussie rules, which is only played in Australia, and football, which is a world sport, and cricket. So we've got 5 major sports. But Aussie rules and rugby league will never go to the Commonwealth Games or Olympic Games. So we've got a sport that you can do that, but we don't actually publicise it. Absolutely. Which is really, really strange, you know. So I just get involved and, you know, I just love talking the game. You know, most of my podcasts are speaking to people overseas. I think I did one in Australia because that's just the way it is, you know. It's just, I don't know. As I said, you know.
We've spoken before, haven't we, about you tend to be a little bit more revered, well, not the right word, but you understand what I'm saying, in the northern, excuse me, in the northern hemisphere more than at home.
Well, that's what this book's about as well, Joe. It's been written by James Curran, who's a historian. He's not a rugby writer. So what he's done, he's looked into when I started, where I come from, how I finished, and in between, how I was treated as a player in Australia compared to the rest of the world. You know, and after the British Lions, 89, you know, they interviewed Teague, Gus Scott, and they all said, you know, they couldn't believe how I was treated. Because on a good day, they would have probably been on the other end of the ledger, not winning. Sure. So, but in Australia, I copped it big time. So, and you had administrators asking not for me to get picked for my 100th test. Now, you know, you're playing for all those years for your country, and you've got people saying, don't pick him. I mean, really? Where does that happen in the world? You know, it just shows you that, you know, if I went to a private school, a different name, things might have been different, but mate, I was a WOG, I'm Italian, and I was different. You know, you can't change who I was.
No, you can't. That's one of the reasons we love you, though, mate. To be honest, it's in fact, you got a special message here from Wales. I just saw a message there from the great Welsh wizard himself, Spiky Watkins, sends a message to you, mate. So before, good luck with the book, Spiky, out there in Bangkok. Was on the show last year. So the book. Okay, so I know you've got a copy there.
Yes.
Just so to hand. Okay, so we are. Tell us before we tell people what the competition is going to be about. But tell us why this book now. What does it cover that's different from the autobiography? Because this is a biography by the great James Curran. What does this sort of cover, and why put this out as a legacy piece now?
Yeah, I just think James. He just approached me and said, mate, you know, would you mind if I do a book? And I said, well, okay. So we sat down a lot, and it was, you know, it's about my playing days. So it's not about after when I retired. It's about how I played, what sort of player I was, and how I played the game, and trying to think about how I did what I did. Like you said about that try in Ireland, you know, how did I do that sort of stuff? So trying to really get insight, right, this is what I tried to achieve, this is how I did it, this is what didn't happen, this is why I was criticised here, I was doing that. So it's really about the game, and a lot of, obviously a historian, he's done a lot of research, there's a lot of famous saying from a lot of people, a lot of journalists who I didn't really know wrote a lot about rugby. You got quotes from, I think, Gerald Davies, and I think it was Phil Bennett. So a lot of older players commenting as well. So it's not about off the field. It's really what happened on the field, the way I played, and just trying to get into my mind why I did what I did on the fields. And yeah, it's just it's I don't know why it came out, to tell you the truth, but there's some nice photos. But it's really just trying to say that, you're coming from my background as well, coming through to this game where, it's a private school sport, being on the other side of the fence and still being able to make it against all the odds. Really, that's about it. So yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, we're going to have a look at where people can get that from. The link is on the bottom there. The book is called The Last of the Dream Sellers. If you want to hold that up again, Campo, I'll just stick you on full screen. Yep. There we go. The Last of the Dream Sellers by James Curran is available now, and you can go to that link, /davidcampese.com/shop, and you'll be able to purchase it there. However, we have a competition. And do you want to ask the competition question, mate?
Yeah, just quickly. The book's not out until November 2nd. I've gotten copies in Australia shortly, so we're trying to pre-sell now. So because I'll be in Europe in November, they're not available until after Christmas. I don't know how that works, but I'm a winger, so I'm a bit strange that way. But so it's just on my webpage. Send it through. If you want it personally signed, just email us as well. I think we're on Facebook as well. So there's a couple of different places there. And if I can get them before I head over to Europe and you're there, I'll try and bring them across. But that's why I'm just trying to get rid of it. Not get rid of it, but sign them, because I know it's going to be busy once I get over to Europe on the 2nd of November.
Yeah, we'll come back to that in just a couple of minutes. So the exam question is the competition to win a signed copy of David's biography by James Curran, The Last of the Dream Sellers. The question is?
How long was my career at the international level? It's pretty simple.
There we go.
Yeah, but I want to say something also.
Yes, mate.
It's very interesting if you look at that photo. I'm running with the ball in two hands. Why two hands? Because if you have the look at that try again, if you have the ball in two hands, the opposition aren't sure if you're going to pass or kick. Okay. The modern player shoves the ball under their arm, which means they're not going to pass it. So just a little tip for all those young kids out there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's these sort of things now which are almost missing. That, you were saying before, when you talked to the youngster the other day, can you kick with your left foot or your right foot? But only one, and they don't follow the top people in the game and stuff. And it's almost like it's a skill that's just not there. And again, a number of the questions from people that we all know on the show are coming back to, how do you bring that back to what it was? It's down to the coaches surely to be able to do everything left and right-handed, every facet of the skill set to have in your arsenal that you can use, not just hone in on one bit.
Yeah, it's true. But, it's also when I speak to my kids, what I know, when I was their age, I didn't know either, but now what I know, I'm trying to explain to them, this is what you need to try and do. So my son, Jason, kicks right and left foot. He can pass right and left. So it's about my daughter Sienna's a good hockey player, and my little one Mercedes is good at touch and cricket. But it's about having a go, trying things. It's not about the coach tells you to do this. Sometimes you've got to go, well, actually, there's a bit of space over there. I'm going to run over there. I'm not running into somebody. And that's what I mean about understanding the game. And I recommend all young kids should understand the laws of the game. They should get a referee and do a course, because the laws are so frustrating. There's so many different interpretations of the law that it's just making on the world scene. It's very frustrating the amount of time the referee blows a whistle because of a technicality that's different. How does it say? He looks at it differently from the linesman, and we had that in the test matches when the linesman said, "Oh, look, there's nothing to see," and the referee said, "I'll just better have a look at this." And I think it was when Francis Dane. Oh, no, it was the Argentinian, what's his name, the big flanker, tripped the Australian Hodge in the last test. you know, and he's about 120 kilos flanker, and Hodge stepped, and he actually had his leg out, and the referee went back over there and looked at it, and the linesman said, no, it's all right. He went back and then yellow card him. And I said, mate, the guy's 120 kilos. He hasn't got the reflexes like a back. You know, it's a natural thing, but there he is, yellow card because he's the ref. So it makes it frustrating, but you've got to adapt to the laws. You know, the 50-20, you know, and all that sort of stuff now is coming to the game. And it's very vital that the young kids understand who their idol is, understand why you like him, what he does off the ball, and how you can improve. You cannot play rugby if you don't watch rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you want a signed or an unsigned copy of the book, The Last of the Dream Sellers by James Curran, Campo's new biography, you can go to that link on the bottom, davidcampese.com/shop, and you can purchase it there. There we go again. If you want to win a signed copy, then the exam question from Campo is, how long did he play at the top level in Wallabies career? And all you have to do is answer in the comments. This is going out to about 70 different groups. It's going live on 6 pages. So including Campo site, 3 Bod Rugby, and a whole host of others, Rugby Academy Ireland, coffeedog.ie, etc., etc. So all you have to do is put the answer in there. You're going to copy the answer from somebody else and you think that's right. If you don't know the research, then great. And what will happen is we will collect all of those together over the next sort of week, 10 days when they're all in. And the cutoff for that will be this time next week. So we'll give 7 days from today's show. We'll put them all together. We'll number them, and then we will do a quick. I'll do a quick recorded video, and we'll get Campo to pick out a number, and that number will be the person that gets it, and we will get a signed copy to you. So, how long did Campo play at the elite level rugby for the Wallabies? Put your answer in the comments, or send a PM to 3Bod, send a rugby group, send a private message to David Campese 11, which is his Facebook page, and you can be in the chance of winning the book, The Last of the Dream Sellers. You come to the UK in there for most of November, Dave, I believe?
Yes, I'll get there on the 2nd. Cool. On the 3rd, I go straight to Guernsey for 3 days. And then I'm off to Scotland for the tests. Back to London, and then watch the test match. Then I've got to go to Jersey then in that week, and then I'm coaching at Saracens Kids on the Sunday after the England test.
Very nice.
And then I'm off to Wales for the test, and then home.
And you're doing a number of speaking engagements, aren't you?
Yeah.
As well. What sort of things do you do on those?
Yeah, it really depends. Look, a lot of people want to talk about the game. They want to talk about my idea about the game. Or if it's a test match, they say, what's going to happen today? And I said, well, it's like anything else. That you can only play as well as the opposition lets you play. And it's really just about what I think about the game, the knowledge, some of the games I played against, some of the people. So I've got a lot of good mates there. So it'd be good to see Mr. Dottie Wee down in Scotland, the Bill McLaren Foundation, John Thorburn, the gang. You get to London, see Jason Lennon, Will and all those guys. So Jonathan Davies, a great mate of mine in Wales, Yane Evans, Robert Jones, who's a guy, the little shit who started the fight in the British Lions in the second test, the smallest guy in the field. But, there's a lot of great guys over there, and it's really good to sort of just catch up and have a chat. We haven't seen each other for a while, and look, that's what rugby is. I think rugby is a very unique sport compared to other sports in the world. You can go anywhere and play rugby, and there's always people that know you. So it's amazing.
Cool. And but there's still availability to book you should somebody want you for a speaking event, a motivational event, corporate.
No, definitely. Yeah. Well, I do a lot of
bar mitzvah, wedding, funeral, not your own.
Oh, yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah, great one. Yeah. No, but what I do, it's quite interesting now because we have, working for Stan and Channel 9 out here. They had Sonny Bill Williams on talking about the All Black culture. And we don't have a culture in Australia. I don't know in our history, we don't seem to live on that, and I'm trying to understand why not. We are Australians. We won 2 World Cups, the first country in the world to do that, and we've got 3 other codes against us. And, we seem to have not understand a bit of our history, why we are who we are. Every country's got their own history stories and why they become that famous and the road they've travelled. But we seem to have lost ours somewhere because I suppose there's not a lot of older players back involved in the game in Australia. They don't allow us. And I think the young kids don't understand why would you want to play for the Wallabies? Because they don't understand, they don't understand that we used to win World Cups. We played a style of rugby which was all flair. We had great backline players. You're allowed to go and do different things. Now that all they see is guys kicking the ball away every second time they get the ball. So it is very, very strange, but it's culture is a very, very important thing in life. I think we've still got to hold on to that.
Absolutely. So there are spaces available. So what day do you arrive? What day do you depart again?
Yeah, I arrive on the 3rd of November. And I'll be vaccinated as well, so don't worry, guys. I haven't got COVID. Then head back on the 22nd of November back into Australia.
So if anybody wants David to speak, corporate speaking, motivational events, dinners, anything else, then you can go again to his, you can either go to his, send him a message to his Facebook page, anywhere in the British Isles, davidcampese.com/book-David, and you can put a message through to there or come through us and we'll put you in touch with them, and all of the usual stuff. Before we move on to your thoughts on where we are coming out of rugby, our good friend of the show, Martin Buggy, who probably knows more knowledge about the British and Irish Lions than anybody I've come across, sent me a question saying, the goose-step, where did this come from? I mean, this iconic image we put up the other day in Silhouette, say who we got on the show, but where did that come from? How did you develop that?
I'm still trying to find out who the guy who did it when I first saw it. I was 8 years old. I played rugby league down in a place called Yass. I was fullback, got the ball. I saw these 2 kids run at me. I did something, scored up the other end, and I came back and these guys had knocked out. So I've gone, obviously that worked, whatever it was. Never practiced it at training. I just thought, well, this is a great little asset to have as a player. If you can sidestep, you can swerve, you can do the goose step, you can pass right, you can pass left, kick right, kick left. The poor guy marking, you're not sure what you're going to do next. So that was the whole idea. It was just really something that I did, and it was just something that you could add on to in a certain situation. It's you can't do it every single time. You've got to have the player in the right position to do it. I think I used an 83 test against Argentina in cricket ground. I'm coming down the side and the fullback's coming across on an angle. If he was in front of me, I couldn't have done it. I probably would have stepped, but he was at the right angle thinking, right, he's waiting for me to come in. So if I did the goose step, he slows down, then you go again. So he just misses you. So it worked. But I didn't name the goose step. But I wish I patented the bloody thing.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why after the last show we didn't use wanted to use some video clips, but even though you own the rights to yourself,
I can't use it.
Remember the world online, we got blocked, didn't we, for using one of you? We won.
Even today, Joe, every World Cup, they still use footage from us from 30 years ago. I've still got no rights. I've got nothing. It's ridiculous.
There was a very, very brief question from Martin Buggy there, and I think this is important on not to go on about the past, but Evans, but you did touch on this before about how it's in your book, and you're very open to that you learn from the mistakes and things that we make in life. How did you deal with the press? Martin's asking there, did you shrug it off, or how did you manage to deal with that and sort that out and move on from it?
Well, the way I played, I was always going to make mistakes. I didn't want to be a winger that sat on the wing and just waited for something to happen. I look at the wingers these days, they hardly touch the ball. It was one of those things. If you look at the British Lions, 89. I'll just go back one to 1988. This is very funny. We played the Barbarians at Cardiff Arms Park, and I remember just before half-time, we had a scrum, and I got the ball, and I was running down the sideline from halfway. I was about to score the try, and I dropped the ball. The ball fell out of my hands. And I've looked around, and Nick Farr-Jones laughed, so I laughed. It was just one of those things. But because it was a Barbarian game, that's sort of, it was just one of those things. Anyway, the crowd started to laugh. But when you come to the British Lions in 89, I passed the ball. It was very serious, I think in those 3 test matches, I probably got the ball 3 times. I was starved of possession. So if you give me the ball 20 times and I make 3 mistakes, no one really cares. But if you get the ball 3 times and make 2 mistakes, you're a winger, mate. You're out there exposed, so you cop it. It was very sad that after the game, people were just sort of, mate, you lost another game for Australia, blah. A lot of the Wallabies didn't come near me for 10 minutes in the dressing room. Drove home that night, and I got pulled over by the police for speeding. So it was a really good day, actually. But what I did was, how can I say it? You think there and go, so why do I want to do this? Then I get home and St Helens Rugby League ring me. They want to offer me more money to play rugby league. And I wasn't really in the mood to talk about that. So the next day I ring Bob Dwyer, and I said, mate, we had the Anzac game the week after. I said, listen, I don't think you should pick me. And I put the phone down. And I go, geez, I've just told the national coach what to do. So I picked the phone up. I said, mate, pick me. And the week after, I did exactly the same pass, and it worked. But during that week, you had guys like Andrew Slack, who was a former player, captain, absolutely ripping into me. You had all the journalists just absolutely going for it, and you've just got to sometimes block it out. And it's sad because you don't intentionally go out there to do something bad. It's just one of those things that happen. And it happened to be me, CAMPESE, and then Chris Handy kept on saying, oh, this Mickey Mouse rugby. They kept on having a go at me about because I miss a tackle, I miss that. But, certain players from certain states always make mistakes. They never get sort of mentioned because as a winger, you're exposed. You're the last man out there, and the crowd, you get the ball, everybody's watching. We're in a ruck. You can't see what happens. So, you have to live by that. And I realised that, if I'm going to do it, you might as well do a bloody good job about it.
Make it memorable one way or the other.
Oh, yeah. People will never forget your name, will they?
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies and gents, you are welcome. I'm coming towards the final bits of the show. I'm joined today by the great David CAMPESE, who's talking about his biography, The Last of the Dream Sellers, by fantastic writer James Cotton, which is out on the 2nd of November. And we've already posed a question. You can win a signed copy from Campo of that book, The Last of the Dream Sellers. And it is, how long was David at the top level playing for the Wallabies? Put your answer in the comments, send it to the 3 Rod group, send it to Campo via his page, or or email him through via davidcampese.com, and we'll number everybody, we'll put you into the draw, and there are 7 days from the end of this show for you to do that, and we'll put it all together, and then we will do a draw. Just a couple of comments there before we move on to where the world currently is in rugby, according to Campo. Craig Brown. Craig, great to hear from you. Should have stuck with league. It's a game that doesn't care where you come from, but where you are going. I quite like that.
True.
And actually, I think part of the problems we've had in recent years is that, Matthew, I'll just take off there, is we've inculcated a lot of league aspects into union by some coaches and by some teams, and I'm not overly convinced that's been a big help. Quick thought on that, Dave?
Yeah, look, that's a sore subject with me because you've got Andy Farrell, who's never played, but played about 5 Test matches for England. Then all of a sudden he's a coach of Ireland. He's never played the game really. You've got a guy called Mick Byrne, who was a kicking guy from Aussie Rules. Was with the All Blacks as a kicking coach. Came to a Wallabies as a skills coach. When he turned up, we were 3rd in the world. When he left, we were 7th in the world, but no one cares about that. And now he's coaching Fiji. Never played the game in his life. Mate. Then you try and go for a job with all your experience, and they say you've got no coaching experience. So, 15 years, probably 30 years of rugby, and you've got no idea what you're doing. So it is how it is, mate. It's just so frustrating. When you've got all these league guys, we don't see many rugby union guys go in the league, but we bring them over because they're professional. And it's very sad. The game of rugby used to be the French were flair. The All Blacks, the play, they used to physically bash you, And I think if you saw the last couple of weeks, we had the rugby, we had double headers. We had Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Argentina, vice versa. And the last week, we had the All Blacks versus South Africa and Australia versus Argentina. So Australia should have won by 60. They won by 30. But then you watch the next two teams up, the best in the world, South Africa and New Zealand, total different game, total different standard, and that's where hopefully the Wallabies are trying to get to. They can see the big difference, and that's but they're rugby countries, that's all they've got, that's all they've got. So what we've got to try and understand about the game is we don't need these people from other codes to come over to our code to coach. And I think that's the problem. There's so much structure in the game, and I look at the World Cup 2019 when I was in London, and it was funny because you met Spike Watson just then. He was in Bangkok, and I was in London, and I was on my way to Bangkok to do a function, and he was at the function. But in the airport, I was watching Ireland play Japan. And I think after 60 minutes, Ireland were losing, So I'm sitting there watching, excuse me. So for the next 20 minutes, what do you think Ireland did? How do you think they played those last 20 minutes, Joe?
How do I think they played?
Yep.
I reserve judgment, mate.
Okay, what they did, they played exactly the same as they did for the first 60 minutes.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, nothing changed. Well, we talk about that a lot.
They could not change because the coaches are telling them how to play. If you don't understand the game, you cannot play rugby. You're going to be a robot. The robot era is over. The pod system was probably the worst system in the world, but because the All Blacks did it, everyone thought, we've got to do this because they do it. We used to have the French came out here and played some really great test matches. They ran the ball. It was unbelievable. That's the old French. Every country used to have its own style of rugby. Now, at halftime, change the jerseys. It's just the same. Yeah. And it's very frustrating. Yes, it's professional. Yes, it's a different era. I'm an old fart, and I'm talking about old days. But geez, it was bloody good rugby, and we entertained. Yeah. And that's what people want to see. They want to get their value for money.
I think that's why in recent times I've not fallen out of love with the 15s game, but I went to my first grassroots game about 4 or 5 weeks ago, Gory Rugby Club. Let me shout out down here, and it was great. The atmosphere was great, and I'd just forgotten what it was like at grassroots level, and the sevens game is growing and growing. That's why we're looking to do a bit more sevens coverage, but it's just I don't know. The 15s game, as we said before, is really stifling. But again, what you've just said there, and what you said before about the fact that how many times do the coaches come on the pitch? In Razzie's award,
they actually should be barred. There shouldn't be any players or any coaches. Obviously, there's this big thing about Rusty Erasmus at the moment. About giving that video. And if you look at the video, he was just talking about the laws of the game, But it's quite bizarre that they have a go at him. And Eddie Jones came out and they said he should throw the book at him, where 2019 Rugby World Cup final, England refused to put on their runners-up medals in Japan. So that is a disgrace to their culture, to their country. And the IRB did nothing about it. But Rusty Erasmus, South African, had a go at the British Lions, and now they might take it away. I mean, how pathetic! I mean, it's just sad that this bunch of guys are still trying to tell everyone how they. You've got to have an opinion. How are we going to get better if you're just going to shut everyone up?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we need to move on very, very quickly because I want to talk to you just about where we're going, because we're already 5 minutes over what I promised, and I blame Martin Buggy. Third mention.
Okay, true. I agree.
for making us run over. So, Darren Maguire, I'm not going to ask your questions because we've got one question at the end.
Okay.
But coming out of COVID now, David, and looking forward, where do you think the state of rugby is? So we're adding a couple of Pacifica teams into Super Rugby, which I think is fab. The sevens game is growing. The women's and girls game is growing around the globe. Grassroots is starting to grow again. Where do you think we are, and what would you like us to? Where would you like us to be in the next sort of 2 to 5 years? Because we have an opportunity to change things. The USA MLR into the second season. They've just said they're pitching in for the next the subsequent World Cups. Where do you think we are, and what would you like to see over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I just said I'd like to see the rules just be looked at seriously, and just don't listen to whoever the world champions are to change the rules. Because, in a lot of countries, it's very frustrating to understand the laws of the game. And as I said, like there's 5 referees can look at one referee. They all have different interpretations of the law.
Yeah.
The law's there, but it depends on who's looking at the law. And I think that it was interesting after that last game, South Africa versus New Zealand. The English referee gave New Zealand 8 penalties in a row. And then there was Francis Dane tackled Mackenzie in the air, tackled him, put him on the ground, stole the ball mid-air on the ground, and he penalises Francis Dane for not rolling away when he had the ball. Little things like that make big difference in games. I just think if we can do that, I think America could be a powerhouse in rugby. And I've always thought, why haven't the World Cup gone to America years ago? And I really think the problem is that America's got a lot of people, a lot of power. If they get the World Cup and start winning, they're going to start beating a lot of the home unions, and the home unions ain't going to be very happy with that. So it's all about control still. The world of rugby's got to move on, and we've got the Pacific Islands who are in the same position. Yes, we've got a team in the Super Rugby, but I mean they tried that years ago as well. In 2003, I saw an IRB official. I said, "Why can't you? I'll love to help the Islanders." And he said, "Well, you go and get a sponsor, and we'll think about it." I mean, you've always trying to do things, but because it's got to be their idea. It's got to look like that they're the ones who control the game. And sometimes they're not doing the world's greatest job. But also the referees, I just don't like referees when in the TMO is just too controlling of the game. I think it's getting to the stage. Sevens, great sport. I think they've got to modify the laws that you can't kick out. The guys walked to a line out like 15s. I said, guys, it's 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Modify the laws. You can't kick it out. I mean, how good would that be? Yep. Obviously, still in the Olympic Games, which is great. You've got all these other countries getting involved. Maybe the Six Nations. You've got that other second tier. You've got Spain. You've got Georgia. Absolutely. You've got Romania. Why can't they do what we've done out here and do a double header? You might have Romania versus Spain before, something to get these guys ready for competition where they can perform at the higher level. Yeah. We've just seen Uruguay, I think, and Canada and America basically out of the next World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uruguay, Chile. I mean, that is absolutely amazing for rugby. But what's going to happen when they'll come to the World Cup? They're going to get absolutely their backsides kicked because the level is so different still. Yeah. The top is here, the bottom is still here. There's no helping at all, and I think that we've just got to understand we've got a great game. Football, the World Cup. You've got no idea who's going to win the Football World Cup because there's so many good teams. But in rugby, it's going to be the top 8. Yeah. Nothing's going to change. It's very sad.
Okay. Very, very quickly, before we wrap up, grassroots. You've been doing a lot with grassroots in Oz. Why do you think that's the way forward to build from as we come out of COVID now? And why is it such a passion to you? What drives you with grassroots?
Well, I think grassroots is the future. If you haven't got grassroots, you haven't got rugby. I've just been out to a lot of country areas. Last couple of years I've been around places like Emerald, which is middle of Queensland. I've been to Bundaberg, Cairns, Perth. I've been everywhere. And these kids, they haven't been exposed to Wallabies or players. Obviously, I'm a very old player. They don't know who I am, but their parents know who I am. And it's just a bit of knowledge about just teaching them. They've been taught by a Wallaby. I ask every kid after training who their favourite player is. They haven't got a favourite player. They can't name a Wallaby, and it's very sad, because we won 2 World Cups, the first country to do that, and yet we've got kids now who play the game have got no idea who we are. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling, really. And yeah, I think the administrators have done a very poor job by not allowing older players to get back involved in the game. I think they're a bit pressurised because we've got an opinion, Joe. If you ask me, I mean, I've always had an opinion. I'm not saying I'm right all the time. I could be wrong. As a coach, I mightn't be a great coach, but I'm always willing to learn. I might learn something as well from someone, which I did a couple of weeks ago. It was amazing. So it's really about passing on the knowledge, the history, and getting these kids to understand you can go anywhere in the world to play. It's a great game, but we just need the administrators to understand you can't put the money at the top all the time. You've got to give it to the juniors because they're the future of the game. It's not the guys playing now. It's the kids on the ground, 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds. They're the future. And if you haven't got that, you haven't got the game.
Absolutely. Listen, we got a final question from Darren Maguire, who sent it in before, hence the reason I wouldn't answer his questions before. And I did remind him, before I put this up, that of your first try in the 1991 Rugby quarter-final against Ireland, where you we discussed that and how you did that, sighed the way through. However, Darren's question is... at what point in the famous 1991 Rugby World Cup quarter-final game versus Ireland did you realise that you weren't going to watch, you weren't going to catch Gordon Hamilton? I think it's a great photo. Not because you're chasing, but I just think for a flanker, fair play to him for being in the right position.
Do you think that's very funny, Joe? Do you? Oh, mate, the whole thing with Ireland, I think the first time I played Ireland was in '84. On the Grand Slam, and it was a bloody tough game, and I realised then that they were the sort of a team that you've got to get at least 15, 20 points in front. If you don't, they're a threat. That semi-final, quarter-final, didn't look like scoring at all. Anyway, so they kick the ball, goes through, I slip over, Hamilton gets it, and, mate, he on the run. I was never going to catch him. I sung out to Edjo, tackle him, get him, you got to get him. Yeah, but look, it just made. That's what I mean. That's what rugby's so good. You got no idea what's going to happen with some of these teams. But then, a couple of minutes later, we score in the corner, and I suppose the interesting was as Michael Lyon scored, all the Irish supporters have just gone up. They've just got, oh fuck, we've just lost. They've just gone silent.
I know. 4 minutes ago, it was just heartbreaking. But that's why we love rugby. And that's what we would like to see. Excuse me, back to us again. Listen, that's it. Just to recap for people, that the David's book, The Last of the Dream Sellers by James Curran, there we go, there is available via davidcampese.com/shop. You can send us a message or send him a message, go send an email or through the Facebook page and through our page. If you want any of those, we'll put you in touch with David if you want a signed copy. And you can get those there. He is, excuse me, to win a signed copy, all you've got to do is put in the comments in any of the groups we are, and we'll pick them up from the moment the show stops for the next 7 days. How long was David at the top level of rugby playing for the Wallabies? How long was that? And your name will go into a draw. We'll number everybody, and then we'll do a quick recorded thing with Dave where he will pull the number out and we'll get you a signed copy sent across. He is coming to the and the book, by the way, is out on the 2nd of November. He's coming to the UK on the 3rd to the 28th, David?
Yes, that's it, 22nd.
Of November, to do a number of speaking engagements, obviously, because the Wallabies are cross-playing Scotland, Wales and England, and he's doing some coaching sessions, some corporate speaking, motivational events. You can still get the odd space if you're quick.
Yes.
Message us, message David, go to davidcampese.com, book David, there you go, and send him a message anywhere you can, and you can still avail of that. Mate, one last thought on the world as we come out of COVID, according to David Campese.
One last thought. Life's too short, mate. You just got to enjoy what you do. It's I think rugby's for me is just highlighted the opportunity that I was given from a skinny little Italian kid in a town. My dad was Italian, had no idea about sport. I think out of 101 tests, I think Dad came to 2 test matches, and because he had no idea, he just sat there, couldn't understand the game. So please don't pressure your kids. Let your kids play. Don't shout at them, and never say to them, "Please don't do that again," because the kids need to try things. We need more flair. We need more unpredictability in the game, and we need more of dream sellers. That's what the book's called, and that's why it's called that, because they're too scared these days to dream about what you can do. It's all about what you cannot do. So, still believe in your countries. I think it's great. Rugby's fantastic. Let's just hope that the referee stays out of it a bit more and we can actually see a lot more flair players around the world.
Cool. On behalf of everybody who sent questions in and everybody's going to take part in the competition, David, once again, thank you. It's an hour, mate, an hour of your time. Thank you, Laura and the kids, for giving us your time again, mate. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks very much, Joe. Yeah, you too, mate. Stay well, hey?
And we'll chat soon. Take care.
Definitely. Thank you. Okay.
The great David CAMPESE there. So that's what you need to do if you want to get a copy of his book. That's how you can get it via the shop. The competition, obviously, is how long did David play the top level with the Wallabies? Put it in any of the forums. Send us a message, a burning bush, a postcard, anything you want. And we'll, from the moment this finishes just now, right the way through to for a week's time, and then we'll put you all into the draw. If you want to book him for when he's coming to the British Isles, then you can go on via there as well. Thank you to everybody who has commented and been on today and supported what we're doing. This is effectively the first show back. I did see Stu Corser there saying, I didn't notice that actually, saying the halo looks good. Could be the next Roger Moore, the next Bond, do you think? Big Joe Shepherd's Bond? Big Joe for Bond? There you go, the new hashtag we're just starting. We start a new series after a bit of a layoff. Next Thursday, we will be coming live from Londonderry up in Ulster with our Ulster Rugby Roundup show with Nigel Quigley, David Topping and Chris Brownfield, amongst others. Our White Walkers Chat and Crack, and that will start a series of shows starting back up again. If you want to see something as ever, then let us know, please do. And as you know, we support small businesses and small businesses support us. We are grateful today for coffeedog.ie from Ireland, Rugby Academy Ireland here in County Kildare, Auto Door Solutions, Nigel Quigley, up in Ulster, South Wales, Ulster Rugby Supporters Club in South Wales, obviously. And from Australia, the National Sports and Physical Ability Convention Australia. Go and have a look at some of the great speakers that they have got on there. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday. And for subsequent stuff, I am Big Joe Shep. I have had the pleasure once again of speaking to the legendary David Campo CAMPESE. Till next Thursday and the start of our new series. Go to Mila Maha, go Tagas, Slangafol.